Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerds Dave.
And our friend Locrius is gonna help us bring this video in.
Skulking amongst the goblin horde, there is a deadly creature who harbors an insidious surprise. Doom shall come unto those who underestimate the clandestine power of the Nilbog.
Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Nilbog.
Nilbog!
As Locrius has said.
This is an old school monster. It's coming back to us from, first, second edition-ish. I started D&D with first edition, but I wasn't there very long. But the Nilbog is a monster I've never actually encountered. I've not seen it in my game. I actually have some ideas how I want to use it in my game now, because this version is kind of cool. And I've definitely thought of some ways to beef them up, especially because the Nilbog, they've changed it. Before, Nilbogism used to be a disease. Now they came up with this cool history for how the Nilbogs first came about.
I love the fact that it's like Magouliet, however you want to pronounce the goblin god, slaughtered everybody. And yet there's slaughtered all the goblin gods. And then there was one trickster god who kind of snuck away, and his spirit now inhabits.
Well, no, he got destroyed. He didn't sneak away.
His spirit snuck away.
No. It got destroyed and obliterated and scattered. But those fragments, now that's what got away.
Okay.
Very important distinction. So his spirit was blown to pieces, but those pieces now can inhabit goblins and inflict them with nilbogism, which is a little bit different how things, kind of worked back in the day. They've changed that up a bit. Speaking of the back of the day, Locrius, why don't you tell us how the Nilbog came about?
The Nilbog first appeared in White Dwarf magazine back in 1978 as a big old middle finger to players everywhere.
Thanks, Locrius. I actually like the changes that they made from previous edition to here. As, Locrius said in his video, which, you can jump down in the description below and watch the full video of Locrius. In the previous editions, you couldn't just harm them. You had to actually eliminate them with healing magic.
You had to heal them to death.
Yes. So anytime they took damage, it would just be a buff of temporary hit points. So you could get several rounds in where it's like, all right, the thing is just taking damage, quote unquote. And all right, what do we do now? And all that damage that you've done is now hit points that you need to heal away.
Yeah, now the Nilbog is a much weaker monster than it once was. In some ways, but in other regards, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with the Nilbog. So before, like Ted said, they would just get temporary hit points, and you could not harm them by doing attacks. Now it's just, once around they can blow their reaction, nullify all damage and heal die 6 points of damage. So they still got goblin hit points at the end of the day.
They do.
So it might make them last through one more attack.
And the amusing thing, though, is in order to actually attack them, you need to succeed on a charisma saving throw. So if you have a party that has dumped their charisma, you might not be able to harm the thing at all.
Well, yes.
It's like, all right, wait a second. You all have an 8 charisma. So that means you need to roll a 13 or better, I believe, in order to actually injure this thing and not just sit there and grovel at its feet.
It's still a low DC, so I'm not super terrified of my players and not being able to take on the Nilbog. That being said, too, if you have any bards, warlocks, sorcerers, or paladins in the group, they're probably going to pass this saving. You might have a fighter or barbarian has dumped their charisma, or some other characters. So some of them probably could have the chance of failing. So that may lead to some interesting role playing too. I would definitely like to see the players role play out
how they're groveling at this goblin's feet.
Yeah, how they're groveling. That would be kind of fun. I mean, like I said, it still only has 7 hit points. It's a 13 armor class, so it's not particularly hard to hit. One of the cool things about the Nilbog is they have inspired such fear in the goblin hosts that now bugbears and hobgoblins, they have this honorary position where they create
a jester
as one of the goblins, and they know very well that goblin probably is not afflicted by nilbogs, but as part of their superstition, part of that is like that goblin can just get away with doing crazy outlandish shit and nobody's going to call him on it for fear that a real nilbog will appear.
I think it's quite hysterical. So if nothing else, you can actually use that role-playingness in a group of goblinoids, and you have a goblin who gets away with doing whatever you want, and it could even actually hire players to go do something. It's like, oh, we're doing this for the jester. Oh, jeez.
You could absolutely do that. What are some other ways that you could possibly use the nilbog, Locrius?
Dungeon masters can use the nilbog anywhere they use a goblin. Well, you should probably use it sparingly, because you know this shit is gonna piss everybody right the fuck off. Maybe in your universe, the nilbogs were originally a group of goblin adventurers who accidentally stumbled across a portal to the far realm. After a mere glimpse of one of the great old ones, they returned unharmed, but significantly weirder. Or the nilbog could be the ultimate champion of the goblin god Maglubiet, a maniacal holy warrior who's chosen to forfeit his soul to spend an eternity as the exalted hand of the Lord of Depths and Darkness.
Thanks, man, for giving us that. Is there anything else that you think of that you'd like to do with a nilbog?
Yes, there is actually a few things. One, the idea is of a nilbog spirit that's been around for a while and has been moving from goblin to goblin and becoming more powerful. Maybe just it could be random chance. It could be it's come up with a way to steal a little bit of the life essence from each goblin that it's inhabited, or it could be a magical experiment going awry. There's a ton of different ways that you could do this, but the idea is, what if you go and use sorcerer levels? What if you create a nilbog that actually has sorcerer levels or actually has warlock levels? This way that the players won't be expecting, they'll be expecting this weak ass goblin, but it turns out he's a powerful sorcerer instead. That's one way of going. The other thing is, well, what if they keep killing the nilbog, but he just keeps jumping to another goblin? So, technically, he never really dies. You have to, exhaust all the goblins. And then I was like, well, what if he jumps to a goblin boss, which is a little bit of a superior goblin? I don't think we have any other versions of goblins yet, but I'm sure we will eventually. So you could definitely use that as well. He keeps jumping into goblin after goblin, and they're not all the same goblin, so he could be a little beefier.
That's true. This edition really does give you the option to take any of the NPC templates, or not templates, but any of the NPCs in the back of the DMG and say, all right, I'm just going to apply a different race to this. So you could have a goblin veteran, you could have a goblin pirate, you can have any of these kind of things. And then because it's a goblin, you can add the nilbogism to it, because it actually, there's a nice little section in here for nilbogism, and it says this is what you do if you want to apply this to another goblin.
Yeah, you get a sidebar, and that's actually one of the cool things. So if I were ever to run a nilbog encounter, he would just keep jumping from goblin to goblin to annoy the players.
That's absolutely the way you have to do it. And wait a second, it's a new creature. That means he gets a reaction this round. Lots of...
That's what I was thinking too, and part of me is like, is that a stretch? I don't know.
Nope. That creature has not used its reaction yet.
That is absolutely true.
It's not his fault that he's, become a new creature.
A nilbog, while not as devastating as he was in the previous editions, there's still fun applications for it, especially against a low-level party, and they're not expecting it. It could really mess with them. And because of the nature of nilbogs themselves, they don't have to be out to kill the players and destroy your party right away. I mean, they are chaotic evil. Eventually, they're going to probably try and do that, but they might have fun with it first. They're tricksters, they're pranksters. It's just, all of their pranks and tricks are going to be flavored with malevolence.
Indeed. So, Locrius, you have anything else that you want to say?
Nilbog is goblin spelled backwards.
All right, so what do you guys think of the Nilbog? Have you used it in your game? Do you have your copy of Volo's guide? Why don't you put your comments down below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.